Okay, so my first question to you is in regards to India, Pakistan, and the escalations going on over in Asia. What concerns do you have regarding the fact both of these are two countries with access to nuclear powers, and this escalation is an escalation like this we haven't seen since both countries have had those that access to those types of weapons?
So Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been in contact with national security officials from both countries. And what he's expressed to both those countries is we need to see open lines of communication and we need to avoid escalation. That's what we need to see here when it comes to these recent developments, that open line of communication and to avoid escalation.
Has Marco Rubio gotten any assurances from either side that we won't see that type of escalation?
I'm not going to talk about or speculate on private diplomatic conversations given the dynamic nature of the situation, but the secretary did speak to national security officials from both countries and again expressed the need for open communication and to encourage both parties to avoid escalation.
Switching gears now to President Trump's upcoming trip to the Middle East, specifically heading to Saudi Arabia. What does the State Department want to see come from this trip?
Look, this is about strengthening our partnerships. This is about pursuing our common interests. The president is the best deal maker in the world. He's a peacemaker. He's out there all the time representing America. And what we're seeing is the president going out there again, making sure that we're advancing that common interest for an America first perspective. But when that happens, we're seeing areas to collaborate for that bilateral relationship between countries to pursue those interests we have in common. So it's about strengthening partnerships. And then again, stepping back and looking at the region in general, what we're seeing is President Trump approaching creative solutions, wanting to see ways that we can ensure prosperity for the entire region.
Will Iran and a possible new Iran nuclear deal be on the agenda for this trip?
I don't want to speculate on what may come out of this trip at this point, but what I can say when it comes to Iran, the president has been very clear. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, nor the capacity to develop one. That has been very clear from President Trump. And again, when it comes to the Iranian regime, the president has been very clear, and as has the secretary, that there are two options for Iran. There's a good option and a bad option. The president prefers diplomacy, prefers diplomatic engagement, but Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, nor the capacity to develop one.
Saudi Arabia also would like to have access to nuclear power, at least on par with whatever Iran has access to. Are you preparing for those types of negotiations with Saudi Arabia as well?
Well, look, again, not to comment on that or preview on that specifically, but what I can say again on Iran is the president has been very clear. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, nor the capacity to develop one.
Going on to the latest with Israel and Gaza, will any developments on a potential new ceasefire deal be in the talks as well or on that agenda?
Well, our approach to this conflict has been guided by two principles. First, the fact that we stand with Israel and Israel's right to defend itself. And the second, that Hamas must release the hostages. The secretary has also been very clear, as has the president, that when we're looking at long-term here, long-term solutions, Hamas cannot continue to exist. They have shown that through their own actions again and again and again. The barbarity of their actions. So we're guided by those principles. We've seen engagement from the highest levels of this administration in order to try to see a ceasefire, see peace, release the hostages while standing with Israel, making sure Israel has a right to defend itself. We're going to continue to see that engagement, continue to be guided by those principles in order to achieve those goals.
Switching gears now to another top international conflict, Russia, Ukraine. What's the latest efforts to get both sides to the negotiating table and see an end to that conflict? Where does that stand right now?
President Trump has brought the parties closer to peace than ever before, and that is because of the leadership of President Trump. But we need to see that serious continual movement towards peace from the parties. We have again seen levels of engagement from the highest levels of this administration in order to try to get a ceasefire and then a long and enduring peace. We have seen that engagement, but we need to see that serious movement towards peace from the parties. And if we don't see that serious movement towards peace, we're not going to have meetings for the sake of meetings. Americans watching at home are probably used to meetings where the big outcome from that meeting is just to schedule another meeting. That's no more under President Trump. We're going to have meetings that are about constructive dialogue, are about solutions. And we stand ready to aid in the pursuit of peace, but we're not going to have meetings for the sake of meetings. These next few days are critical, and we need to see that serious movement towards peace.
What does that movement look like on both Russia's side and Ukraine's side that the U.S. wants to see?
Well, these are dynamic conversations, so I'm not going to preview what that might look like or get into the details of those dynamic private conversations. But again, we have been seeing the levels of engagement from this administration that have brought us closer to peace than ever before. But we need to see that serious movement. Or we're going to have to focus on other priorities. We're not going to have meetings for the sake of scheduling additional meetings.
Sticking with Russia and Ukraine, are talks happening at the highest level? Is Secretary of State Marco Rubio in talks with his counterparts in regards to Russia and Ukraine, or are these have these been bounced back down to lower level negotiations?
Look, Secretary Rubio has had numerous different conversations with countries around the world on this issue. He was in Paris just a few weeks ago.
Well, what about
meeting
specifically
partners
with
there.
Russia and Ukraine and counterparts there?
Well, look, we've seen Secretary Rubio in conversations with Ukrainians. We've seen the administration have various conversations with Russian officials as well. We have those communications. We're having that communication, which is a credit to President Trump's leadership. It's a credit to the fact that President Trump, again, has brought us closer to peace than ever before, but we need to see that serious movement towards peace from the parties.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
Nothing. That's all good for me.
All right. Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.